Thank you for logging on to WPRI.com. I'm Tim White, and I'm sitting here with .com reporter Ted Nesi. Ted was down in Washington, D.C. to cover the President's State of the Union. Ted, we read all your stuff on there, so we know nuts and bolts of what you covered, and you got to interview each one of Rhode Island's delegation. So I don't want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about behind the scenes in Washington. Now, first of all, for the actual State of the Union, were you inside the House chambers?
I was up. If you think of how you see the president, speaking there with the speaker behind him and the vice president, I was with the press, a lot of us, right up there, right above him, almost. So I actually couldn't see the president during the speech, but I was looking out over the crowd in the House chamber.
Oh, because you were so on top, literally, of the president that...
Right above him, because if you think of the House chamber, which is funny, it's not very big, like PPAC is probably 3 times the size, and you think it's funny to see how small it is in there and all them crammed in. So you've got the balcony all around the side. You'll see like Michelle Obama. We were along that, but above the president.
Now, your type of reporting is you're constantly churning out information, but you had a bit of a technical, not issue, I want to say, but you're not allowed to bring in electronics, are you?
You're not. Well, you're not allowed to bring in your cell phone, and you're not allowed to bring in any, like an iPod, an iPad, nothing like that.
So a quill?
So yeah, that's what I was thinking, a little feather thing or something. But they actually you can bring in your laptop. But because I was one of the more junior members of the press corps there, I didn't have a perch to put it on. So I was pen and padding it, but I was coming in and out to like tweet things and stuff.
More of a philosophical question here. Why would you go? I mean, listen, you can cover it from the comfort of your living room, watching it on CNN. So why would you want to be down in Washington, D.C. for this?
Would you say no?
No, absolutely not.
I think it's certainly, there were not a lot of local television reporters, not only from Rhode Island, but from anywhere coming down. And I think, I had the opportunity because someone I know down there said to me, I think you might be able to get a credential. Would you be interested? And I talked to our bosses here who were good enough to say, yeah, we think that would be great. I think seeing something like this in person, it has a big change in perspective. I mean, you and I cover politics a lot. We cover our delegation. We see them when they're up here. But seeing the 4 of them in their offices, watching how the House chamber works. I watched Sheldon Whitehouse give a speech in the Senate chamber to pretty much nobody, because that's what happens all day. I mean, we all know it. They give it to C-SPAN, basically.
C-SPAN has a tight shot on Sheldon Whitehouse. You don't realize that it's
crickets
everywhere
else.
No
one around him.
Before we get to the delegation, you had the bird's eye view of everyone watching. Look, I watched the speech, obviously. It was a little over an hour,
yeah.
I think. Anyone nodding off?
Yes. Justice Ginsburg was clearly quite tired.
Supreme Court Justice.
The Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because she was, I'm looking right down, and you can see her. You see, actually, Jim Langevin, the congressman, right there because of his wheelchair. He's put right in front.
Yep.
And the Supreme Court justices are there. And some people are readers during the speech. You watch them, and they're reading the speech. Sheldon Whitehouse was doing
How much
that.
in advance do you get the...
I got it at about 7:15, or excuse me, 8:15. It started at 9. They had like a nice printed copy. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg I thought she was reading it very intently, but then you could see she started to do the fleer that we all did as seniors in high school,
Yeah.
And then I saw her do it again, and this time I saw Justice Breyer exchange a look with Justice Roberts, and they sort of rolled their eyes, and then Breyer nudged her, and she woke up again. So Justice Ginsburg...
This is the type of reporting you won't get anywhere else.
No,
that's for sure.
Absolutely not.
All right, let's talk about our delegation briefly here. Down there, I've been down to Washington, and it always struck me that seniority is displayed in the size of your office. And we have a very junior member down there, Congressman David Cicilline, Providence's former mayor. With that metric, his office would be, very, very small. What was it like?
His office, actually, it's funny. I saw them all in their offices. Langevin and Cicilline, their offices themselves are about the same size, their personal offices. The difference is Langevin's staff is all in one continuous set of rooms. Cicilline actually has his people are like 2 doors down along with, he's here, there are a couple of them next to him, and then wait a little, and then you get the rest of his staff. So they're not all together. They have very small rooms. You can tell that the Senate is where the power is. I mean, the Senate, Sheldon Whitehouse has this beautiful, huge room, his own personal office with a big view and nice bookshelves and everything. And the House members' offices are more modest.
I remember going down and seeing Ted Kennedy's when he was still alive, and I was working in Boston, and he had an entire wing.
Yep.
Is that what we're thinking of here for Senator Whitehouse, Senator Reid?
Kennedy was almost a shadow president. He'd been there so long.
Yeah.
He had things that I think few people have had or will have. But they actually have the senators 2 offices in some cases. Reid has a hideaway as well as his regular office in the office building. Whitehouse, it's sort of long sweep, but it's nothing like what Ted Kennedy has.
Back to Congressman Cicilline. Is he adjusting? Has he found a place to live? What's his life
He
like?
is. He's still subletting Patrick Kennedy's apartment, although it sounded like he wants his own space, his own personal place. He's getting used to it. He was, in some sense, he was clearly having fun, enjoying, especially on State of the Union Day. But I think he also said it's a big adjustment to switch from mayor to lawmaker again, although he was a lawmaker here, because he said he has so little control over his schedule. They're constantly being called down for House votes. He's canceling things, moving appointments. So he said it's an adjustment.
You were in there for, back to the State of the Union, for sort of a historic event in that you had Republicans sitting next to Democrats. And traditionally, you see one side to the other side, and one side will stand up when they like something and so on. But they were in the wake of Tucson. They were all mingled together. I was reading online that one pundit had said that despite this intermingling, that there was still a lot of partisanship. What was your take on it, your perspective from inside the House?
I would disagree. I think, obviously, I can't say compared to other years because I've never been in the House chamber until this year for the speech. But, right after the speech, I talked to both Sheldon Whitehouse and Jack Reed. Jack Reed especially, who's been there since 1990, he was a House member and then a senator, they both said to me it was a very different feel. And I heard other members saying that. I heard Republicans and Democrats as they came out and talked to us, the press corps, right after the speech. They said, you just would have felt silly jumping up and down all the time when your Republican friend, if you were a Democrat, was next to you and not about to get up. I would see people look at each other like, should we get up? All right, we'll wait for this one. And then the bipartisan things like education, all right, we'll all get up.
Ted Nesi, WPRI.com reporter, thank you very much for taking the time with us. And if you want to see more of Ted's reporting, be sure to log on to our website. Obviously, you're there now. His section is called Nesi's Notes under the blogs. Thank you for watching. I'm Tim White.